Hello there, Year 6. Today we will continue our special studies connected to fields. This time there will be two bigger animal groups mentioned again, reptiles and insects. Reptiles is hüllők in Hungarian, insects is rovarok. You know the two names. And here you can see one of the special creatures we will start with. These animals are called sand lizards, fürgegyik, that is the Hungarian term. These can be found mainly in grasslands. No small wonder they love basking in strong sunlight because they are cold-blooded animals and they need to warm their bodies up so they can move. So they are unable to regulate their own body temperature. So this is why this is an important issue for them to start their days like this. In your book you can find the expression to bask in the sun. It means that they just wait in the sunshine and they can become really active after that. They are inactive during the night, no small wonder. There's not enough heat, so they cannot warm up their own circulatory system. In winter, they hibernate in their burrows. Burrows are the underground tunnels. Their skin is rather dry and scaly, though many people think that they are kind of like humid, but that's not true. So if we magnify this image, you can see how scaly they look. This is a young one here. The sand lizard can reach a length of 25 centimeters, and the color can be kind of different, various colors are typical. They use the colors to camouflage themselves. They lay eggs, and the eggs are incubated by the heat of the sun. They usually dig little burrows for these eggs too. They can shed their tail if caught by a predator. Here you can see the eggs. They're in the sand and they are hatching there. So the special feature is that they can shed their tail if caught by a predator in order to escape, and their tail can then grow again. The next group is a group of insects: grasshoppers, locusts, and true crickets. Grasshoppers, szöcskefélék, locusts, sáskák, and true crickets, valódi tücskök. So these are the three groups we are going to deal with now. But before that, this is a kind of nice image of all the different reptiles. So, insects. Let's see the common features of grasshoppers first. They have the three pairs of legs. They have the jointed legs and the two sets of wings, which are typical. The antennae on the head and compound eyes. So not simple eyes like spiders, they have that, but compound eyes, lots of tiny pieces of ice right next to each other. And they have two hearing organs as well. They also have chewing mouth parts. They are plant eaters, so they need to be able to chew all the different parts, those parts of plants which can have fine fibers, cellulose in them. So the chewing mouth parts are crucial. The three body parts are typical again, like in every insect: the head, thorax, and abdomen. The antennae of grasshoppers are shorter than the body length. You can see that here if we magnify this image. It's quite obvious. So here you can find all the body parts. I would like to focus on the spiracles as well, because these are parts of the trachea system, which means that they do not have lungs like mammals. The tube system is there in the body, and air can basically penetrate this, and they can have oxygen through the spiracles. So they breathe through this system. We mentioned that they are herbivores, and the mouth parts were mentioned as well. Here you can see the life cycle of grasshoppers, which is quite unique. We call it incomplete metamorphosis. Metamorphosis means that they form different types of things during their lifestyle. They start with the egg, and then this, in about 2 weeks, turns into a nymph, which is quite like the adult, but it has no wings and a tiny bit smaller. And then comes the adult stage of the life cycle. So the 3 stages are, once again, egg, nymph, and the adult. Locusts are also another image of this, so hopefully you can memorize it. The whole thing takes about 4 to 7 weeks. The next one is the locusts, which are not that popular in many countries. Unfortunately, they can cause major agricultural damage as they eat all the leaves of plants, and this way farmers can easily go bankrupt after a huge kind of locust swarm appears there in a country. Luckily in Hungary it's not a typical feature, because the bow-winged grasshopper, which is a locust, is the typical species in our country. The Hungarian name is Zengő tarlósáska, and that doesn't cause this damage because they do not have these kind of big swarms. So luckily we don't have this problem. On the other hand, they look quite similar to other grasshoppers. You can see again the jointed legs, the exoskeleton, which is chitin. You know, in every insect that's a typical feature, because they do not have a skeleton inside the body. And again, the compound eyes are a typical feature. Life cycle is again the same: egg, nymph, adult, so incomplete metamorphosis. That's the typical feature. And here is one which is quite well known because of the special sound they can make. These are crickets, which are omnivores. They can feed on seeds, fruit, leaves, and other smaller insects as well. And the male crickets can chirp. The chirping sound is typical, especially in summer, if you just walk near a field. They do this sound by rubbing their wings together, and their aim is very simple. They need to attract the females. And female crickets can hear the males chirp through the front legs where their ears are located. So that's quite a special feature again. They have the ears on the front legs. So these are the crickets. Okay. The European field cricket is actually typical everywhere in Europe, and they really like living in meadows and fields, but they also like rocky areas and even caves. Yeah, so you can find them almost everywhere in Europe. And maybe one more image of that. The color is this kind of darker shade, black. Again, exoskeleton, you can see the long antennae, jointed legs, body, again, the 3 division is important: head, thorax, abdomen. So these are quite the same. Again, they have spiracles, so that's the trachea system. They breathe through these. And finally, the bush cricket, which again is kind of quite typical in Hungary. That's the simple lombszöcske. You can see that here the antennae are quite long, longer than the actual length of the body. And the great green bush cricket is really typical on the Great Plain of Hungary. Actually, it's all over Europe and Asia. They are omnivores again. And the males make a loud sound by rubbing their modified front wings. And the female lays hundreds of eggs into humid and loose soil. The nymphs are green and they do not have wings. And the adult great green bush cricket not only uses its strong hind legs, but also its fully developed wings in order to fly sometimes even hundreds of meters. So again, that's a quite typical feature. Then another image of this, and after reading about these creatures in your textbook on page 74, 75, 76 and 77, please start working on some of the workbook tasks as well. Page 70, task 6 is about these animals. The sand lizard is mentioned here, and maybe some of the birds we had learnt about earlier. But I would like you to focus on task 4 as well on page 70. So page 70, task 4. Yeah. And page 71, task 7. We would like to check all these tasks in our lesson on Monday. In the first lesson, we have science again. But until then, you can just check these things in your book. So, thank you very much. And we can meet again on Monday. Goodbye.